So we have with us in the Hangout, we have Dane Wigington from the geoengineeringwatch.org site, a remarkable site there, packed with information, a lot of factual information, an enormous amount of work. We also have Jamie Lee of tabooblog.com, which I think, if I'm right, Jamie, is short for towards a better understanding. Exactly, which is what we all need, is a better understanding. And we also have Willem Felderhof, who is an ex-commercial airline pilot, and he has recently written a very interesting article which has been published on your site, Dane. So let's get started, shall we? We've got Matt here running the Hangout for us. Thanks very much to Matt. And we've also got our chat room here where people can post any questions. I have 2 or 3 already lined up, but I think let's hear from the guys here first. So, Dane, would you like to kick off for us?
Thank you for bringing this group together, Louise. I appreciate Willem being on, and we need more like Willem to step out of the shadows. He's very courageously done. The pilots, personnel, other people involved with these programs. We've had 4 pilots in the past in Northern California that stepped forward, but then seem to have lost their willingness to address the issue. I don't know what pressures they may be under, but I greatly salute Willem for standing up and his courage in speaking out, and to Jamie Lee also for his constant posting and researching of data. So it's all of us working together that matters in this factor, Louise. And geoengineeringwatch.org, we intend to be a resource site. There's no advertising, no politics. Material can be freely distributed, reposted. We just ask that a source link be shown. That's all. We're just a resource site. But anyway, that's the faster we get this issue to light, the sooner we may have an overturning of the insanity in our skies. That's the goal. Jamie or Willem?
Well, I'd like to. Oh, go ahead, Willem.
Okay, now if I step into this, this is interesting that you mentioned this, because I've seen after 9/11 the same kind of the dynamics on pilots, and I mean a lot of pilots with awareness knew that this whole operation was impossible on a flight operational and flight technical level. The same is geoengineering. And that's even more blatant. I mean, pilots and meteorologists, their job is to watch, analyze, and interpret the sky, and to make planning on that. So they know what's going on, and it's their job to analyze this. So I was very surprised that there was no movement on this part, but luckily the geoengineering is now in a sort of overdrive mode, what I see, what I analyze, and that makes it more blatant, and it makes it more difficult for people to not speak out. It's almost it's almost a little bit strange if you say there's nothing wrong with the skies, especially as a pilot or a meteorologist. Excuse me for my English, but that makes it more easy for people, it still is very difficult to come out of this fear modus, but there is a lot of momentum now, and thanks to the geoengineering, although it's really bad, but it's so blatant, and if people do research on this, especially pilots, on what it is, and they have this great resources like Geoengineering Watch with information, then they come to the awareness that we have to act now, and then the whole individual story falls apart. My personal goals, this is so imminent that we have to act, and luckily it's happening. So the more blatantly now with geoengineering, which is just a part in a multi-layer toxification program which is going on, but it's okay to speak out, and people are willing to speak out, and it's helpful if people do this. So especially from fields like pilots, meteorologists, or in whatever, it's always good if people speak out.
Sir, can I ask you a question? Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, of course.
This is Jamie. What is your experience and how did you first come to the realization that geoengineering was actually being done from either your airplanes or airplanes that you were in the skies with?
Well, on the part of geoengineering, that took me some while because I was a whistleblower on toxic air in the airplanes, and I was 24/7 busy with this in a battle with the airline industry, defense industry, and that took me over 10 years while I was dying because I'm more sensitive to toxic air in the aircraft. So I was pretty occupied with that, but the dynamics and the mechanisms are the same. People are afraid to speak out. People are afraid. Mainly afraid.
What about you?
Really
What about you? When did you realize? When did you realize you were seeing stuff? What was it you saw?
I received an email. He asked me my opinion about this geoengineering phenomenon. So I just looked into it, and from my experience, my views, my knowledge of my technical knowledge on commercial aviation, commercial airliners, I thought this is technically quite difficult and impossible. So then that was my conclusion. But from that moment, that was 2009, I started to analyze and look on the website or on the internet, and then I saw it. If you want to call it like that, I don't know if since I think since the last 5 years, it's way more blatantly visible than before then. But besides that, I started to observe it, and then I saw it. But if you don't look, if you have this sort of helmet, this mind frame over your head, you can. I was with pilots. To give you a good example, I was with senior pilots.
What is it that you saw, sir? What is it that you saw? What is it that you're seeing when you say it? What is it?
If you want to call it blatantly like that, I saw the contrail formations. I mean, contrail formation, if you do research on it, you know when a contrail is visibly, it's hardly possible. The conditions have to be quite exceptional to be visible. But besides that, I start to look at it with awareness. And it's a good example I want to give you. I was with 9 pilots or 8 pilots. We had a reunion. These were all senior pilots, 10,000 hours plus. Instructors, all guys who really know how to fly an aircraft and who are really aware of how in meteorology, and we were just biking around in this area where our training was, and the sky was full-blown sprayed. It was completely unnatural. So I said to these guys, look up, you guys know the skies, you know what's natural and not natural. What you see here is completely unnatural. And they were all watching out. And they didn't see it. 3 weeks later, I received an email from one of these guys. He said, Willem,
having some serious audio troubles. I don't know, Jamie, if you're getting that too.
I'm cutting in and out. I can't hear the. I
After
can't
you
hear
said
it
that,
at all.
I'm starting to look at it. Okay. Anyway, it takes a while before you see it, if it's there or not.
I just got a military guy in a uniform on a signal on my screen. I don't know what that was.
Okay, I hold position here.
So how are we doing? Are we hearing each other again? Are we back together?
Well, Willem's looking for a signal just to try to weave this together, what Jamie asked, and Willem can join in and hopefully we get a signal back. But I shared Willem's initial skepticism as well when I first had this issue brought to my attention 15 years ago, and my background again in solar it was more or less something that I would have thought I would have seen sooner, being that my background involves what happens in the sky. But as I began to test, as Willem did, and every single dot connected from the ever-increasing amounts of aluminum in lab tests taken at the state-certified lab, the incredible loss of solar power uptake on heavy spray days, sometimes 60, 70, 80%. So I think a lot of people have gone through this process of just simply having to break down their mental filters, which is what we need to do for the general public, and very, very quickly. When people like Willem enter the fray, it helps that a great deal, because that's who people expect to hear from, is the pilots. They've been silent, and all the agency officials whose job it is to hide things from the public, not to disclose them. That's what the population needs to get through its head. Agencies that are supposedly set up for public protection are primarily used by the power structure to hide what they want hidden from the public. The public needs to understand and accept that. So, Willem, if you're back in and you can hear again, I want you to finish with what, or maybe you could finish with what Jamie asked you as far as what made you face this issue and the trouble you're having with your colleagues in facing it.
Yeah, well, actually, what you were just addressing, it took me a while. Once I started to look at it with awareness, it took me not so long to see it, that there was something completely wrong with the skies. It was unnatural, but we are in a sort of mind-controlled, fear-based state that we just cannot see it. It's so blatantly, and we just cannot see it. We even take pictures of these skies, which is just evil in the face. We think, wow, the beautiful skies.
Sir, you're not answering the question. Sir, we've answered the question. We've asked the same question several times. I'm getting a military guy coming on the screen here. There's something going on. I don't know, you guys.
He's trying to answer the question, I think, James. There's a bad connection.
Okay, I'll be quiet.
You asked me when I saw it, when I started realizing something wrong with the skies. That was the question, was it? Hello?
Do we know whose Skype that is?
Willem, if you can hear it, go ahead and continue, Willem.
Yeah, the question was, when did I realize it, that these operations were taking place? That was the question, was it? What happened? Just to have it clear.
Is that correct, Jamie?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question. I'm having trouble. It's in and out.
I think that was a question, I think, Willem. Just when did you first see this? And you expressed that it took a while to really digest it, so it didn't come immediately. It came over time, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. So then I gave this example that I was with 9 pilots of very senior pilots, very experienced pilots, and who didn't see it. We were just in nature watching the sky, and I said to these guys, do you see what's happening? You guys know it's your job. You see, this is complete for this guy. One of these guys wrote me an email. He said, you mentioned it. I'm thankful. I'm shocked, but now I see it, and I'm going to totally dive into it. I'm going to study it, and I'm going to look into this. So it took, to answer your question, it takes a while. We are under completely in a mind-controlled state, fear-based state. So it takes a while to see it as well. So for me, the same. I didn't see it in the beginning, which is, yeah, from now, this point is quite unbelievable. But that's how we are. Who we are. So it takes some time before you see it from where you come.
The technical issues we're having certainly are happening more and more. I did an interview this morning with John B. Wells' Caravan to Midnight. Their site was was taken down for about an hour. They've had some very strange problems. So, you know, I don't, maybe it's just a bad connection that we have with Willem, but we're having more and more difficulties with sites and communications and so forth. But that being said, Willem, what we try to convey to, for example, agency people, elected officials, those whose job it is to face, investigate, and deal with issues like this, and they are not. And in many cases, we know that they're simply avoiding the issue to protect their paychecks and pensions. We try to convey to them that the public is waking up to the fact that global climate engineering has been going on for a very long time with absolutely cataclysmic consequences. And once the public is fully awake, we would expect that public who has been irreparably harmed by these programs to hold anyone, everyone accountable for their part in these crimes of omnicide, whether they were an active part of the programs or whether they simply participated in helping to cover it up by their silence. All bear responsibility. So we would hope that that type of message would be conveyed by those that are listening and those that are trying to help sound the alarm. It's imperative to point that out to those people whose job it is to address this issue and who are not, that they will be at some point soon held accountable by a population that is furious over this issue.
And can I add one thing to that, is that there's a moral obligation too. I mean, we're being sprayed, and we've been being sprayed for a long time, and you know, Dane's website is the go-to place to go to for this kind of information, documenting, detailing, scientifically proving all that's going on. So there can be no doubt that it's really going on for anybody that has common sense. So once we all wake up and start doing that, we need to get to come together and start sharing our stories and what we're seeing, and going to Dane's site and learning about aluminum and barium, and learning about the Arctic, where they're melting the stuff so fast and they're trying to mitigate it with HARP and all these other technologies. But the pilots are in control of the planes. And once they realize that, there's a moral responsibility. And that's all I really have to say on that, okay?
Can I perhaps come in with a question here from the chat room? It's basically for Willem. And Laurie is asking, did Willem ever see any planes fitted with geoengineering equipment?
Level. I was flying the MD-11, and we didn't have any separate spraying systems or equipment on board, as far as I know, because we did do from the aircraft, and I didn't see any extra nozzles on that, you know, which. So, on my personal experience, I was not aware of extra equipment on my aircraft, which I'm aware of other aircraft operators which use that extra, you know, the structure of the aircraft, what type of aircraft I've flown, and that was the MD-11. So that, in that sense, I was not aware of it.
I'm looking at right now, Willem. In fact, I'm sending images of the nozzles mounted on the pylons directly behind the engine exhaust stream. Looking at an A320 Airbus right now, Air Canada. Yeah. Very clear images. I'm sending this to Greg Hunter, who's a former CNN journalist. Greg's looking hard at this issue. We need that kind of journalist helping us, and Greg's been a big help, his site, USA Watchdog. But we do have those images now, and we do have, of course, the in-air film footage of KC-10s, KC-135, C-17s turning on and off that spray. And we would think, and have felt all along, the commercial pilots and commercial crew would have no direct involvement with any of this, that such systems can be automated and completely managed from another location. So, you know, this would fit with Project Cloverleaf, which appears to be an outline that can be searched online. Project Cloverleaf, an outline for the use of commercial carriers, and without, again, involvement directly of any of the aircraft passenger or crew or pilots. So a lot of these dots do connect. A lot of people ask if there's any drone flights in the air, and we can't know that either. Certainly the technology is there for this, but I personally have spoken with a KC-135 pilot, U.S. military, who didn't know what he was doing flying from point A to point B, and he asked questions and ended up taken off flight duty and medicated, put behind a desk. So it seems this is how those are dealt with who are really in the know or could be, more in the loop. They're taken out of the loop. Just like, I don't know, Jamie, if you've heard this or seen this story, but former Bush aide John Wheeler in 2011 was seen outside the Pentagon reportedly saying he was going to blow the whistle on these programs, and he was found in a landfill 2 days later.
Yeah, and no doubt that this is an issue that the powers that be that have been in power for 500 years, this is the game. This is their big game, and it's the big game of the whole world, and how we survive if we get through this sixth extinction event, the ELE they call it, that they're actively using HAARP and geoengineering and all these machines to try and what they consider save the planet, but they've failed so miserably so far. They've only made it much worse, because we know about the UVB now coming through and scorching trees around the world, and I'm sure skin cancer is going to go through the roof. But we're talking very serious things about planet extinction, and geoengineering is right at the forefront of this. So yeah, this is big stuff. We need to get our head around what's going on, and then we each have to be spokespersons, and I salute you, sir, for speaking out and being right up the first ones, and you got to get hot now and get everybody else doing it. Call out your friends, call them out, and say, hey, look I put myself out there, let's go. We'll publish it. We'll put you on our websites, okay?
Willem, you're going to do a tour, correct, to try to get the word out? Is that correct, Willem? That you're going to do some kind of a tour?
Yeah, in December, because.
Go ahead.
Awareness, create more awareness. So in that sense, geoengineering, weather modification, SRM, all these programs in conjunction with electromagnetic radiation, what it is, who does it, and more important, what to do about it. Because we get a lot of reactions of people, they see it, they're afraid, and they don't know what to do. So, but there are ways to protect where that this is part of just a multi-layer toxification program. The geoengineering, it's a master, there's a mother of false flags, whatever you want to call it in this toxification program, but there are ways to protect yourself against it, and that comes with awareness. If you're aware what it is, then you are in business, because then you are aware that this is part of a war. You cannot call it another term. This is the war. So if you're aware of what's going on, you are able to protect yourself against it. So I'm going to do a tour in this January, February in Holland and in Belgium and maybe in England. I don't know what more.
The audio is very broken up.
So that's a presentation. The other part is a legal part, and that is also multi-layered. So the
audio is very broken up.
Yeah.
Having some audio issues, but Willem, if I could state with Willem, not only is he willing to acknowledge this issue, but the kind of commitment Willem is putting out is what we so desperately need. That he is devoting his time, his energy, his resources toward doing whatever he has to do to bring this issue to light, and that's what we need. So many people that are aware this issue is going on feel someone else is moving the ball up the field, that someone else is taking care of it, so they can sit on the bench and cheer, and that's not enough. If we had more people that were actually willing to do what Willem's willing to do and what some others are trying to do, that's what we so desperately need, people to support what Willem is going to do there with his tour, to help facilitate what he's trying to do. We need that kind of commitment, and those people who think they can just go on about their lives and let this issue pass or think it's going to pass. It's not. We are hitting the wall now. Again, the problem is not on the horizon. It's kicking the door in right now. It's right now. It's here. So those who have any regard for
Dane,
children,
you say what right.
We need to. I'll finish now, Jamie. I'm just simply stating that people need to get involved. Go ahead, Jamie.
No, I just want you, when you say what's going on now, and I think that needs to be heard, and we need to speak about it, as dark as it is. But what I consider to be now is no less than this next year, and then the next decade, and then we'll see what happens from there. Is that kind of time frame we're talking about? If we don't, kind of language that we've been using for so long. I mean, there's no other thing you should be focusing on right now. But Dane, can you give us the time frame that you're seeing here as the activities of this Earth is? We had 107 degrees in Southern California, and I'm out in Northern California, and it's 97 degrees by the coast in October, and no food's growing. You know, so can you talk to that, Dane?
Mathematically speaking, I would argue we have much less time. We don't have into the next decade, and I would be surprised if we went very many more months without some big shoes dropping. That doesn't mean the world comes to an end in a few months. I'm not saying that. I'm simply saying when you reach the point where the gravity and the immediacy of what we face can no longer be hidden from the public at large, the game changes at that moment. And the power structure knows we are perilously close to that point. That's why the stock market's being, all over the world, are being pumped up ridiculously in spite of reality of the collapsing military, industrial, global economy right now from every angle, including with geoengineering. These engineered cool-down events like we saw in Buffalo and Boston last year, and so we have some snow falling on the East Coast today or tomorrow while we still have record-shattering heat on half the country. They are trying to create the headlines they want, to create the confusion they want, to create the inaction that they want, to keep people pacified till the last possible moment at which all hell will break loose. And I would argue we're very, very close to that. This is a non-linear equation. So when we have crops collapsing like we do right now, Mongolia lost 80% of their crops already. Marine ecosystems collapsing. The bottom line is, as soon as a few links fall out of the chain, any key links fall out of the chain, the game completely overturns at that moment. And I would argue we are very, very close to that. There is absolutely no time to spare in this battle, not a single day. We all need to be involved. I would, based on current trajectories, say that our time frame in this paradigm is very, very limited, Jamie.
So could I come in there,
sure.
Dane, at that point, because I hear both you and Jamie, and obviously, you know, there's an awful lot of urgency. So let's see if here since we're at the full circle at the moment, and our main priority is to focus on topics of concern in our area. So if we can establish that what you're presenting, and of course many others are presenting, is the main topic that we should be looking at, can you give us, in your experience, can you give the listeners and the people that are connected to the Full Circle project ways, actionable ways, such as I think on your site, Dane, you have a package there, the is it the arrow package or the flaming arrow package? What ways at this point do you think that we can I think even go beyond trying to inform people? Do we start calling it biological warfare? How do we activate people into real action? And what action would you suggest in your experience?
By reaching critical mass, many other wheels begin to turn on their own. So, for example, the attorney team we have right now, we have that team all working pro bono because they know they're going down on the ship with the rest of us. I have some retired military, high-ranking people communicating with me because they know they're going down on the ship too. They didn't know about these programs either. Reaching critical mass gives us an army to fight this battle with, of attorneys, of military people, agency people. We have an APA person speaking to us now. He may lose his job. He's trying to get some data out. Once we reach critical mass, all these wheels will turn on their own. We will have people in the streets with their pitchforks and torches, metaphorically, looking for those responsible to hold them accountable legally and morally. So in order to wake others up, it's important to do that in a way that actually has the effect we're trying to achieve. You do that with credible data. You can't just jump out in the street and point at the sprayed sky and start ranting. The flyers on our site are free to download. You can print them locally. A print shop is much cheaper to print large quantities of flyers than a copy shop. So if you arm yourself with that kind of data, keep it with you and pass it on during the course of your normal activities, or if you know a particular place or group that should have that material, pass it on. If people want to, from Geoengineering Watch, if you want to burn a DVD from any of our presentations, you can do that. We encourage that. Nothing is copyrighted. And you can hold a viewing in your area and invite people over so they can see firsthand what the data is. On the DVD printing, we don't care how many people or how many DVDs are printed and passed out. We only ask you cannot sell them. We don't sell anything ourselves. We ask nobody else sell anything. This is not about that. So there's a lot of tools that people would simply utilize. Those tools can spread virally, and we would have this issue to light. And the moment we do, Louise, the moment we do, there will be a paradigm shift. And the power structure knows this, and that's why they're trying so desperately to hide this particular issue above all others, because there is no one on the planet that hasn't been permanently and irreparably harmed by these programs.
Could I also ask you on that that issue of the legal action that you're planning to take, Dane? Could you expand a bit on that? That you mentioned you had a team of attorneys. We're particularly interested at Full Circle on finding ways that we can approach our public officials and hold them accountable. And I'm wondering if again we can more of us join forces and do this en masse, the critical mass that you're speaking about, and in the same or similar format, so that we're speaking with one voice to hold the people accountable and really demand that they show cause. Are you able to speak to us about the legal process that you're in?
Yes, they have not filed yet. We have 6 U.S. attorneys, 2 Canadian, a few more Canadian may be added to the mix. There would be a separate procedure for Canada and for the U.S. The U.S. attorneys are trying to draft a model for the filing that could be utilized in multiple states. So it's a bit of a process that they're going through, but that, again, that model hopefully will serve for others as well. And no matter what would happen in a court of law, because certainly this comes down to national security. That's how this issue is dealt with. And that would be a factor in a court of law, but that's irrelevant. The exposure that we would get through the discovery process would be enough to bring this issue to light. Once the issue comes to light, again, that will overturn the paradigm by itself. So we're desperately trying to get to that point and have a model that others could use to also file. We do have the Rhode Island legislation that's of help for some at this point as a credible tool. That can be searched at Rhode Island Geoengineering legislation. I just published today a 750-page congressional report from 1978 on this issue. That should be a tool. There's a couple other documents coming. So again, we hope to have some sort of template out soon that others can use. We hope to have a filing done soon. I'm pushing as hard as I can on my end. It's just it's a big ball to roll, even for the attorneys. This is the biggest dragon of all to try to slay, and we're doing our best.
And out here, this is Jamie. Out here in California, last year in Mendocino, we passed our own local initiative called Measure S that established local home rule, established that the Community Bill of Rights supersedes state and federal law. It was the first time in California any county had passed any such ordinance. So all the way up the pipe, from the top, bottom, and sideways, we need to get active in all areas. And we're going to start making our own laws. We may not be able to initially stop geoengineering, but we'll at least have a much bigger voice by just declaring what we want to have happen, instead of having things happen to us and then we don't know how to respond. So it's a proactive activism that we're calling out and asking people to do. And you know, Dane's just been carrying this load for himself for so long. We need to soldier up, man. We need to get going. I started some websites. I started a YouTube. I'm just trying to do my part. I was in Wall Street for 25 years. I know what's going down with $18 trillion in debt and every U.S. citizen owing $140,000 and the legal baloney that they throw at us that's 500-year-old Roman Latin law. So we need to start and say what we want. We need to create our own visions, and we need to stop the madness. And we can do it all if we can stop them from bringing people to WHERE is what we're working on now, and with the idea goal to stop the spraying, to save our children and all of us. That's where I'm coming from. So it's all hands on deck.
Jamie's done a tremendous amount of good, and he's a good model for follow. Willem, if I could ask you what you're doing or what you're embarking on with the presentation, are you going to be able to film those various presentations in various locations? Is that possible?
Yes. Yes.
Outstanding. That's thank you. Go ahead.
Which we're also working on. Because first is we were just discussing, that's the regular noble legal path via civil law. These programs are in clear violations of civil law, international agreement, international law, and so on. But there's another path, and there's also a legal path, and that is really on a personal level, because the officials, to hold officials accountable, personally accountable, is very difficult via the existing legal system, because then they will be in a political party, there will be an organization, in a corporation. There is nobody accountable in a personal way. The other path we are walking is via universal law, and the message will be from us, is from the people who are aware, who see these programs are happening. We are aware this is happening. We have scientific data. We have facts. This is happening. This is in clear politics, clear in a conflict of national, international security for humanity, and it will personally, will there be documents, manifests, will going through personally the politicians to their houses, personally, on a person. So that's another path. So we have two legal ways here. That's the first, what we discussed with attorneys, with the existing legal system, which is there, which is difficult, a lot of energy, good as well. We need to go there as well, but there's another path, and that's those in power, those officials personally accountable for abuse of office, for foreign politics, which are in clear violation of national security and international security. That's what we're working on, and that's going to happen.
I lost your audio, Willem, but I want to make a.
We're working on this.
I keep losing the audio. I'm not sure if you're done or not, Willem. Your audio's gone. If I could make one point, that's that this, for those trying to share this issue, and that are deterred at all by the resistance they get from others, keep this in mind. That there will be no hiding this issue for much longer, no matter what. The biosphere, the climate system are unraveling and imploding. Methane is filling the atmosphere now. So the damage done to the climate system from many sources, not just geoengineering, but geoengineering is making a bad situation far worse, contaminating the entire planet. This issue can't be hidden much longer. We need to beat the power structure to the intersection. We need to expose this issue before they're ready for it to be exposed. That's why every day counts. So again, those who are deterred by the resistance of others, please get over that, and please confidently share this as if you're fighting for your life, because you are.
Okay. I can also just come in at that point. There's a question here from the chat room from Fred. Willem, if you can hear me, how is the spray activated to be released in a certain area? Do the pilots have instructions when to drop? Do you hear me, Willem, or perhaps Dane? I'm not sure if you could address that at all, if Willem can't hear me.
Again, all available data indicates, especially in regard to commercial carriers, pilots, and crew, that they would have absolutely no involvement in the spraying operations, that any activation or dispersions would be done remotely. They can fly planes in Afghanistan from Las Vegas, and they do. These systems would certainly be centrally controlled. I personally spoke to face-to-face an executive with Jeppesen. They're a subsidiary of Boeing. They coordinate all global flights. And the moment I mentioned the geoengineering subject, after 15 minutes of peripheral conversation, he turned his back and walked away. Those are the type of central coordination entities that are certainly at the core of what is sprayed where, how heavy. It would not involve pilots, crew. That would be far too many loose ends for those in the power structure, and there would be no need for them to have those loose ends. Perhaps in some cases with military pilots there would be some acknowledgement or some direct participation, but not with commercial airlines, pilots, or crews. No.
Okay,
so Dane, is there certain areas they spray versus other areas, and some areas get more spray? I mean, as I understand, there's no place on the planet that's safe from being sprayed for the past decade or so.
Whale studies from around the globe, 1,000 whales in 2010 from the most remote places on the planet that contain jaw-dropping levels of aluminum, and that term jaw-dropping was actually in the report, proved there was no place to hide. Areas that have the most moisture generally get the most spray overall. Moisture is a key component for various aspects of climate engineering. So, for example, in California, where the moisture moves across us normally in Northern California and higher up the Pacific Northwest, a lot of spraying occurs there because they're trying to migrate that moisture further east, and they have very successfully done that, if you can call it success. So the more moisture that migrates across certain regions, they're likely to get more aerosol operation activity.
I have another question here from Christopher, and he's asking, I have been seeing symmetrical patterns in the clouds as if a sine wave is running through. What does this pattern represent, please?
If you put iron shavings on a table, a glass table, and you put a magnet underneath, and you see those shavings align, and we know that the particulates are electrically conductive and they're being exposed to radio frequency signals. So we would expect to see that type of alignment. Radio frequency signature is part of the manipulation process using radio frequency transmissions. So we would expect to see that, and we do see that. It's becoming absolutely epidemic around the globe. There's nothing that's really left untouched at this point, and they seem to be ramping up the experiment by the day.
Very clear signs, which in a sense is in our favour. That I notice here in my village that people who may not take much of an interest in the other things that are basically detrimental to their health and their lives here are looking up and are noticing and are at least attempting to try and vocalize what they see. I think they lack the language to actually name what it is. And I have another question here which is related to that. Should we be avoiding the word chemtrails? Any answer to that one? The type, how we phrase what we're seeing, I suppose. What's the language that's going to help people recognize what's happening?
May I answer to that?
Please do.
Okay. Well, chemtrails is a term which a lot of people know. So you can use this term because they know this term. A lot of people know this term. They don't know the term geoengineering, they don't know weather modification, but you can use this term to get them in the material, in the information, and from there you go on in other terms, of course, because it's not about chemtrails, it's much more. But you can use the term chemtrails because that's well known. Almost everyone knows the term chemtrails, and they see what's happening. So you can use this, although you shouldn't use it for other things. You can use this term to get people in Okay, there are chemicals, but what is it? Okay, let's talk about geoengineering. Let's talk about weather modification. Let's do research. Do research from that. If you do 2-3 hours research, just have a look at it, because people see it, so they are concerned about chemtrails, if you want to call it like that. But from there, they go into other terms, and then they grow in the material, which is, you can do that very quick. Do this research, and then talk about it with other people, and then you leave this term chemtrails, because I mean this it doesn't say anything, but you can use this term because it's very good to connect people with it, with the information. So use it, but not stay with it, of course.
If I could add to that, and again, the term is descriptive. I do understand Willem's point with an initial trying to relate to people so that they understand what we're talking about, and it can be used appropriately in that context. Once you begin to try to communicate this issue, as Willem stated, with officials, agencies, or so forth, at that point, it's imperative to stick to the science terms. Once you reach that arena, and I think Willem and I are saying the same thing. So it can be used for intro to make people understand that that's a layman's term for climate engineering, which is a good general term, or solar radiation management. But once you communicate again to those agency officials, elected officials, at that point, it's imperative to stick with the science terms.
Dane, what are those terms again? Could you explain those again?
Climate engineering is a good general term because that's pretty self-descriptive. Geoengineering is not known or recognized, as Willem correctly stated. Solar radiation management, it's better, but still a good secondary term would be climate engineering. And as people become more familiar, as William stated, then they can move on to the more intricate science terms, the solar radiation management to block the sun. They can utilize the other terms at that point. But again, when communicating with agencies and elected officials, you've got to use those science terms at that point.
Well, because they won't recognize the word chemtrail, right? And they call chemtrails persistent contrails, and so they use the language of the law, and they just change the language, and you learn their language, and so we have to use what their language is to speak to them, especially if we're going into court and whatnot. So chemtrails, that shouldn't be used. Geoengineering and strategic, SRM management and the rest of them. So.
Not once you get to that point. As Willem said, initially, because people are familiar with that term, certainly it can be appropriate under certain settings, but the agencies and officials do, in fact, recognize the chemtrails term immediately. That is their buzzword term. The moment they hear that term, they have been absolutely trained, conditioned, and instructed to defer to disinformation sheets they have from NASA and other sources that simply say this is a big hoax. If you search that term, you find hoax, conspiracy theory, and for a lot of people, that's the end of their investigation. And we want to avoid that. We want, when they search a term online, we want them to find out that, wow, this is science behind this. I need to look further. So it's a game of chess. We're playing chess, and we need to play articulately if we plan to win.
Mm-hmm. And in Europe, a lot of people don't speak well English. So the only term they know is chemtrails. They see that, and then there's chemtrail phenomenon. So you can use that. I use this term to go on these presentations. Chemtrails, geoengineering, what is it? But they see this, and then they can come to presentations, and then we don't talk about chemtrails. We talk about the issue. It's about this critical mass. It's about get a lot of people who see this, and they maybe know chemtrails, but from there they can, then they see there's a presentation or somebody's talking about it. So just go out and talk about it. About chemtrails, what is it? What is it exactly? And what can you do about it? A lot of people will come who know nothing about it, but they see it and they know chemtrails. And from there you can open up the whole thing.
I agree, Willem. I agree with you completely. That's appropriate under those circumstances, and we're on the same page.
Yeah.
Can I ask you also, do you think it's viable to approach this subject from people's concerns? Because obviously it's affecting life everywhere. So if people are noticing crop failures, if they're noticing bee colony problems, if they're noticing obviously more cancers, more ill health, more Alzheimer's, whatever it is that takes people's attention, what they're concerned about, is essentially a way to lead them to the root cause of the problem, which we're saying here is the geoengineering agenda that we have. Would you say that's another way to approach it? Because some people don't seem able to connect themselves to their false weather conditions, as strange as that might seem. But if they have members of the family suffering with a condition, an illness, or they see their crops failing, this is one method to, again, get their attention.
Exactly.
Jamie,
yes?
Jamie or Willem, you guys, either one.
Okay.
Well, I'll go and tell you. Well, where I'm at in California, and Dane's relatively to you guys right up the road, down the main highway going up from Oregon down to Northern California during this agricultural year. I'm a farmer and been a farmer for half a dozen years, and there's no corn that was growing. It started and it just stopped for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of acres. They turned off the farmers' water here in California back in February, but they got our golf courses going and the wineries are producing wine, getting water, no problem. It's business as usual in the greatest drought in the history of California. All of this is being caused by geoengineering. Dane on his site chronicles over and over again how we are being geoengineered. I've written YouTubes and showed you the articles saying here's what they're doing up in the Arctic, where they got this program called Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, where they're trying to mitigate the mass bulges of methane blowing out of there because we have no more snow, with the HARP project, and literally trying to destroy the blob as it goes into space. And Dane can eloquently tell you what happens after that, but you know, that's happening. It started in 2007, and then another big, huge blast in 2013, and all data, as Dane will tell you, has just taken it off the charts now. We just did what we call in Wall Street a hockey stick, and that's where it takes 1.5 to 2 years, as I understand it, for the methane plumes to fully deploy over the Earth, and then it's just a matter of, Dane says, less than a decade. So, you know, I just want to be real about this, okay? Anybody that wants to be real about this, this is what we're talking about. Do your homework, you know, and thank you guys for putting this on, really. This is good.
Yeah.
Could I manage to squeeze in a couple more questions from our chat room, because obviously this is a really good opportunity for people to connect to you. We have a question from, well, Launchpad question. Invisible spraying. I heard of which was going to be started January this year. There were a few articles about the chemtrails used in geoengineering being changed at the start of 2015 so as to prevent the white lines and make it dissipate faster. So I think the question is regarding invisible spraying. Do we have any info on that?
They're referring to a letter called Indigo Skyfall that was reported to be from a relative of someone that was participating in the programs. Although we do see what appears to be an effort to make the spraying less overt, to be more covert about it, we don't know that there's a direct connection with anything that was stated in that letter. So over areas, for example, in California this year, Northern California, we see much more already dispersed spray, the cobweb-looking clouds, stuff that floats in off the ocean. We see them starting and stopping spray as they're over existing patches of built-up aerosol. So there does appear to be an effort to be less visible with the spraying. Don't know if there's any connection, but the bottom line is there are still days when they simply can't be covert, and they're as blatant as they've ever been. And as they ramp up the programs in totality, ultimately there's no way to hide the dispersion of aerosols in the atmosphere very effectively, so we're still going to see this as long as these programs go on.
Mm-hmm. Can I add something to that?
Absolutely. Yeah, go Willem.
Well,
yeah.
A good indication is if you see a so-called blue sky during the day and you think there is no, oh, this is a nice sky, there's no spraying. A good indication if they're spraying and what's in the sky is during the night. So if you have a clear sky during the day, look at the sky in the night, because you don't see a star, you have a clear sky anymore. In the night is actually, for me, the best indication what's in the sky. So if you think you have a blue sky and it's okay, a good indication is to look in the night to the sky, and then you see what's in it. Due to the dimming.
Hey Willem, could you ask you to repeat once again? I didn't hear exactly what was said about the mechanics of being in the cockpit and opening up the spray mechanism, or was it done by altitude that it did automatically and you weren't aware of it? Can you tell me the mechanics of how they release the sprays from the planes?
Well, I was a commercial airline pilot. It's a multi-layered operation, so you have it in different manners. Either extra equipment in a plane, in a commercial jet, or either you have military planes who are actually actively spraying. Either you have additives in the fuel. It's a multi-chemical process. So in my case, I flew an old MD-11 in commercial aviation, and that plane was, so far as I know, not equipped with extra equipment. So maybe it was then in the additives. I don't know exactly how does that work in a chemical way, but maybe that was the cause. But I'm not aware of that.
We've seen letters from union airline mechanics that have been reprimanded, in some case dismissed, because they wondered why they were not allowed to work on auxiliary tanks located by the septic systems in the aircraft that were apparently part of the spraying mechanisms, much smaller. On a commercial aircraft, any spray dispersion system is very small compared to anything on a tanker. So there is some letters from airline mechanics indicate there is such equipment installed on many of the commercial aircrafts, but you are...
I know low-budget carriers who are fully cooperation in these programs, who have additional spray mechanisms on board and extra nozzles, the whole thing.
But Willem is also correct and brings up a very good point that additives appear to be fuel additives in certain instances appear to be a part of the programs as well. So again, we're faced with another scenario that's not a this or that. It's not just spray dispersions, it's not just fuel additives. It appears to be both in different circumstances. So we're on the same page.
Yeah.
Very good, very good. We're coming up to sort of top of the hour now, and I know that you three guys, you're very busy doing what you do. Is there something that you'd like to finish with, and then I can continue here with Matt for a few minutes extra just to cover some other points of interest for this full circle people listening in. Is there some way that you'd like to finish for this evening? And no doubt we will be continuing this very important topic on Full Circle, and we'll be in contact with you all. But at this point,
yes.
Statement from Willem and then Jamie, and I'll finish.
Okay, I'd like to add the last thing, because in the last part of the discussion it was clear, and that is the good thing of it, that in every profession, every area in the world, people are seeing this. So either you're a farmer, you see what's happening, but I know people in the city, they see what's happening. It's in all layers in the society, people are seeing and aware that things are not okay, and either it's health or it's on the soil, or people are aware of that, they see it and they see the combination. So in that sense, the most important thing is to get people aware of this information. So go out and share this information. Just have a presentation, because if you can have these people on board, they immediately see if there's a presentation on this issue, they go, and then you can create this more awareness, because that's the momentum, and that momentum is happening, but it needs to be reboosted as if there was no tomorrow.
Well said. Jamie?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, Willem, thank you, Willem, for being here and connecting us all and speaking out like that, and just know you're not alone, and it's a lone wolf journey, man. Dane's up on the top of a mountain, I'm out in a 100-acre ranch, and we're broadcasting in the background, but you're just going right out there and speaking truth to power, and I honor all that you guys are doing and whatnot, and Louise, the show. Thanks for putting this on, the second one. I'm honored. And Dane, thank you, my friend, for having the courage to put me on the show. Amigo, we'll keep down the road. You know, I got your back. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys.
I would just like to say that we're a team, all of us. Louise, Jamie, Willem. It's all of us pulling together that matters. And when we combine our efforts, we have every opportunity to bring this issue to light in very, very short order. So it's imperative that everybody understands they are a part of the team, that we will all sink or swim together. And if life's about anything, it's about fighting for the common good, about fighting for the future of your children. So I, again, would ask everybody to re-examine what your priorities are. Consider the fact that if we don't deal with this issue very soon, nothing else will matter. It's a team effort. We all need to work together. Thank you. Thank you, Louise. Thank you, Willem. Thank you, Jamie.
Well said. Well said.
Yeah, you're very welcome, all of you, and in a strange way, you know, it really is a great opportunity that we pull together and show that we can do this, and that we have a vehicle here to help us do just that, to stand together and stand up for life. So we'll keep tabs on where we all are, Willem with his presentations, and Dane and Jamie there with their work on the legal side, so that as soon as there's something there which is refined, we can all start to use that. And all people in the Full Circle project, and indeed anywhere that may be listening to this, just get out there, start speaking, get your facts, download the information pack from Dane's site, and come back to us at Full Circle and tell us what's happening, so we have success stories coming in and we can flood the rest of the world with ways to get busy with this very, very urgent topic. So thanks to everyone for this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you again soon. Okay. I'll bye-bye now.
Thank you, Louise.
Bye-bye. You're very welcome. You're very welcome. Good luck, Willem.
Big hug. See you soon.
And so, if anyone else is still listening, there's a couple of questions here that came in that I wasn't able to address in that very dynamic conversation we had there. One was a question from Willie, who says, "Hi guys, I don't believe they're spraying Australia. Do any of the guys know anything about this?" And I did actually have an answer from Max Egan, who, after all, should know. He's down in Australia, and he says, yes, we have chemtrails here, but somewhat less of late. Why that might be, however, remains uncertain. And I also want to mention as well that we did have Zen also was invited to the table this evening and was unable to make it. Many apologies there from Zen. He has struggling with a cough, which I hope is not caused by the aerosol spraying, by the chemtrails. Or
Get better, Zen. Look forward to having that beer with you, buddy.
There you go. There you go. I'm sure he will. And also Max, indeed, no doubt will be back very soon. He's just really weighed down at the moment with footage that's coming through to him from Palestine about the situation there with the West Bank, and that's his focus point at the moment. But I know he's been listening in from time to time, and I'm sure he'll be delighted that we've made contact with some very, very key people here, and I think that it will really help shape the way the Circle, the project, is working. I know that Matt will be, if he hasn't already done so, he will have a circle of focus there on the site specifically for geoengineering, and people can go there for more information. They can meet there. They can please, if you find any others that are that have relevant information to bring to the table, do send us links to them so that we can get in contact and that we can have further talks and discussions here, particularly on the legal approach, let's also look at it from as many angles as we can, but perhaps we can agree to focus on this topic at the moment and really take it to heart and take it to the street and make sure that as many people we know and that we can be in contact with actually have an understanding and a vehicle that they can use to do something and act well. So yeah, that's a really great symposium. Jamie, you're still there, so hanging on there.
Yeah, I gotta hop off though. I gotta go pick up my son. So okay. Thank you very much for doing this.
Thank you. And I hear you're roasting hot there, so try and stay cool and hope there's some rain.
Send water too while you're doing that. Send some water to us, please.
Yeah, without aluminium.
Yeah, and
without aluminum.
And not dumped on you all at once, no? Okay.
It's bad out here. I mean, we're right at the front lines. We're seeing it every day. It's bad.
Yeah. You are on the front lines, yeah.
My food's not growing anymore, you guys. I'm cutting down walnut trees. I've cut down 4 walnut trees in the past 2 weeks because the trees have been dying from inside out because the UVB is just scarring the heck out of the forest. And Dane did an instrument test and found UVB levels to be 1,000% above what the government is telling us. So we have to do our own work as far as testing too and chronicling all this stuff. Dane's had everybody take samples of aluminum and bury them in the soils, and the elevation levels, there's no question that it's coming from the sky. So now it's just about activity, you guys. So
but can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, we do.
But because you are a really powerful, beautiful person, but do you have around you have guys like you who see what's happening and they also see it? Is it?
Everywhere. Everybody with eyes to see right now is seeing it. It's just
if you're around with guys like you have guys like you in the neighborhood who know what's happening, who sees what's happening, who are with their heart seeing it and doing these things. You just tell me it's walnut trees and things like that. So if you come together with these guys, these other people who also see this,
right?
Guys like you,
right? Well, you know what? If you want to do a tour of California, man, I'm sure Dane and I can figure out some way. If you want to come out this way, we'll you out here. Me, I don't have the power that you do.
Well,
I can give you the information.
If I see you, I get totally inspired. I think you're
I'm doing the best I can, is what I'm doing. I'm full of Dane. We're just full time.
Yeah, you do, man. But if I see you're like us. You're like fire. You have a heart on fire. You see what's happening. If you go out there,
I got a kid. I love my kid.
Yeah, me
I love
too,
my kid.
I'm not a public speaker, but I go to do this presentation. So join me.
Very cool. We hope good luck to you, and we hope you continue on your journey. And just know you're not alone. I mean, and just get others right while you're coming out right now. You got to do it while it's hot. And if you want to talk to Dane, he knows marketing. I know marketing. We can talk to you about, profiling you in a way on our internet knowledge. We each learned our own way, and then you can take it from there. This is all about creativity too. I mean, and be powerful, be truthful, and let everybody know who you are.
Yeah, true. Good words. Stay in contact.
Thank you. I'm signing off. Thanks, you guys.
Wish you best.
Bye, Jamie. Thank you.
Bye.
See you, Dan.
Bye.
Yeah. So, William, it's all down to you. William's gone too. It looks like it's down to us, folks. So we better follow in William's tracks and get out there and do as many presentations as we can, speak to as many people as we can, and just help and support each other in doing the best we can in whatever way. And let us know particularly any creative ways, any ways to approach this that's not generating more fear for people, but that really brings this issue to their attention. Sounds as if it's is really one of the number ones, if not the number one. So I don't see any more questions in the box at the moment. actually can't see the box very well from here, so I've been relying on Matt. Matt's there in the background. Thank you, Matt, for supporting us all the way through that symposium again. Little bit of disruption there with the audio now and again. I'm not quite sure where Willem was calling from. Looked a bit like the bathroom, so I'm not quite sure where he was located. But I do hope that everyone got information there that was obviously lively and dynamic and relevant. And as I say, we'll keep the whole thing going. Now it's been initiated. And I hope to use the Hangout now, not just for our regular symposiums, but also for interviews with anyone that's able to come and talk to us at the table here. So we'll make sure that you have all the information you need for that, and the symposium along with the interviews will all be posted up to the YouTube channel there. And I just keep encouraging everyone, keep on gathering in your circles, keep on getting strong and forming good relationships of trust, and all this type of information will be so much more easily disseminated this way. So thank you very much for coming along tonight, and look forward to the next meeting that we have. And bless everyone, and in Lakesh. Thank you.